All right, so we have been going through the ArtSpeak core values for the last 6 weeks. And we talk about these core values a lot. I don't mind repeating them. I want them to be core and to be valued. And so we will keep talking about these core values, especially as we continue on in the future, as we grow, and as we launch the ArtSpeak Creative Community, which is another thing that is happening right now that we are celebrating. And so we want to bring these cultural values into that community because I believe that they're part of this idea that we've been running with, the idea of a contagious culture, a culture that values people and enables them to thrive all the way through. And so the core values, we're on the last one. This is week 6, but they all build on each other. And so it's worth a brief recap of our core values. Foundationally, this is about people. It's our foundational core value. This is about the 8 billion people and counting in the world that we are trying to reach. And it is about the clients that we get to partner with all around the country and even the world in order to reach them. And it is about you. It's about this team. We are people too, and we want to create a place where we also can thrive and be healthy and pursue our purpose so that we can fulfill our purpose. So foundationally, this is about people. Secondly, gratitude is our operating system. We believe that gratitude's not just about feeling good. It's not just woo-woo. Gratitude is, in fact, essential. We take time to notice, appreciate, and celebrate the good that is around us and the people around us because we believe that's not just the right thing to do. It doesn't just feel good. It also sets us up to be our best self and to work together and to enjoy the process. We communicate with empathetic honesty. We believe that empathy is the foundation for all effective communication. That if I have not taken the time and done the hard work to understand your perspective, your point of view, your personal experience, your hopes and fears and dreams, then my communication to you will fall flat. It will not be effective communication. And this is how we approach our communication, again, out to the 8 billion people of the world. It's also how we think about our communication to our clients and to each other. We're going to start with empathy, but then we're going to communicate the truth. We're going to speak honestly. We're going to communicate what needs to be said. We're going to do it with confident humility. Confidence says, I know that I have value. Humility says, I know that you have value. And I don't have to compare my value to your value. I don't have to do a comparison. I'm going to value my value, and I'm going to value your value. And so I'm going to offer my thoughts. I'm going to offer my solutions. And I'm going to do that with open hands, listening to your thoughts and your solutions, and know that it's as we work together that we'll find the best solutions. Imperfect excellence. Perfectionism is about us. It's about our own pride, or more likely our own insecurity. It's about proving to the world that we're good at something. Excellence, though, is about serving someone else. It's about making something effective, about fulfilling its purpose. And so that brings us to today. We're ready for persistent growth. And we've been growing. ArtSpeak's been growing. We started in 2007. And I had, just to give you a brief history of ArtSpeak, I had quit my job at Chase Bank and started doing graphic design for churches. I was at seminary. I was studying missiology and cross-cultural communication. I liked design and liked doing those things. And I had some of my friends who were going out into ministry calling me and asking for design. And so ArtSpeak got started, and began working with different churches, especially church plants, and helping them figure out how could we take this person, this church planter, this vision, and communicate it effectively to the people that they were trying to reach. And there was a lot to learn there. There's a lot to grow in. But we were step by step helping these churches plant well. Meanwhile, Jason and I teamed up to plant a church here in St. Louis area. It was originally called Thrive Church. Turns out someone else claimed that name, and we ended up changing the name and rebranding and relaunching about a year and a half in. So got lots of extra experience in branding churches and handling name changes and ordering signage and everything else that a church needed. And so began to grow in that way. But then in 2014, Jason had always been ArtSpeak's biggest fan, one of the earliest clients. He was always, when people would call him as the lead church planter for Thrive/Synergy Church, asking, hey, where'd you get your stuff? He would point them to me. And so Jason and I, in that sense, had been working together for a long time already. But in 2014, he and I teamed up, and so it was mostly just him and I back in 2014, with occasionally pulling in some other people. We were starting to grow a team. By 2018, we had 15 team members. By 2020, we had 23 team members. And today, I counted 38. And so ArtSpeak has continued to grow rather rapidly. We could ask for a show of hands on how many of you have joined in the last year. And no need, though. We've done that recently. But we're continuing to grow. Just from a financial standpoint, business standpoint, we grow about 40% in revenue year over year. And we've taken most all of that and invested it back into growing this team so that we can continue this mission to reach people. Because we believe in persistent growth. But it'd be a fair question to ask why. It'd be fair to ask, why does ArtSpeak need to keep growing? In fact, one of my mentors did ask me that not so long ago. Does ArtSpeak really need to grow? Could it be here? Could it be a boutique agency, take a limited number of projects and limited number of clients at a time and just kind of enjoy the ride? That's a legitimate question. It's a legitimate business model. And in fact, I get ads all the time for aimed at agency owners, and it shows them taking a vacation on the beach somewhere saying, oh yeah, the agency just runs itself and follow these steps. And but I think growth is in fact necessary. Because the world keeps changing. When I started ArtSpeak in 2007, there were lots of churches, believe it or not, that still had not bothered to build a website at all. Churches were still figuring out, oh, there's this thing called Facebook now that maybe we should pay attention to. Streaming online was not really a thing outside of a handful of really forward-thinking churches. These were things that the church just, it wasn't a big deal yet. But the world keeps changing. And in fact, I think the one thing that we can predict about the future is that it will continue to change. If you've read any of Nassim Taleb's books, Black Swan, Anti-Fragile, he's a statistician. He studies the numbers. He studies what you're able to predict by digging into the data. And statistically, experts are no better at predicting the future than the average taxi driver. And so what we can predict is that something unpredictable will happen. The world will continue to change in unpredictable ways. And I'm no expert or taxi driver, so I don't know where I fall on my statistical chances of predicting the future. But I'm pretty confident that the rate of change that the church faces in the world will only continue to increase. And so if our mission is to reach people, then that is perhaps the fundamental challenge that we have to overcome. And our strategy for doing so has consistently been the same since the time that Jason and I teamed up. Our strategy is to grow a team of passionate creatives so that together we can create solutions to problems that we've not even identified yet. So we can see that this happens. Throw in some world events, global pandemic, politics, wars, racism, cultural shifts, economics, new technologies, TikToks, virtual realities. The world will continue to change. And so we have to be able to innovate. We have to be able to see what's happening, see what new opportunities are arising in the world, new challenges the church will face, and also new solutions for the church to not just be found flat-footed in the face of those changes, but how can they use them to reach people? And so we've got to continue to innovate. And so that brings us to growth. There's I read recently some fascinating studies. As things grow, they tend to slow down. In fact, there is a really consistent mathematical formula that helps biologists predict how things slow down as they get bigger. It's called the negative quarter power scaling law. No need to write that down. Will not be on a quiz. But it's the same rule. Like a horse is about 1,000 times larger than a chipmunk. And it lives 5.5 times longer. And its heart rate is 5.5 times slower. Turns out all living beings have all mammals anyway, have about the same number of heartbeats in a lifetime. And the smaller you are, the faster your heart beats and the shorter your lifespan. But the interesting thing is they found that this pattern continues even with other types of organizations, like cities. That as cities grow, they also follow this inverse quarter power scaling law. That as cities increase in size, the number of gas stations, the amount of road surface area, it follows that same rule, except the rate of innovation. That consistent pattern is one of diminishing returns. It slows down as you get bigger. But innovation is the inverse. It accelerates exponentially. That a creative collaborating with 50 people is, let me get the numbers right. Yeah. 17 times more creative than one collaborating with only 5. The rate of innovation increases as you're able to gather innovative thinkers together. So we're growing. And we want to continue to grow. And in fact, we're innovating new ways to gather creatives together so that together we can create the solutions as the church moves into the future, like the ArtSpeak Creative Community, where we want to facilitate the kind of collaborative thinking that will create new ideas to solve problems that perhaps we have not even identified yet. But more than that, just logistically, growing the team, it has numerous benefits. for ArtSpeak, for our ability to do what we want to do. One, it's more stable. Just again, to go back to numbers, it wasn't that long ago that about a quarter of our monthly income came from a single client, which is frightening, frankly. That means one client steps away, and wow, that's a quarter of your cash flow. As we're able to grow and serve more clients, we're able to spread that out and become much more stable. It helps spread out just the workload. That the fewer clients you have, the more likely you have these peaks and valleys of workload, where times where everybody's stressed and there's a big crunch, and then all of a sudden now there's a big dip and nobody has work to do. As we grow and have more clients and more projects going on at once, we're able to smooth all that out. It also means, though, that we've been able to diversify the team. We've been able to bring in people with new realms of experience and skill sets. It wasn't that long ago that we just had stopped doing any video because we didn't have the people on the team to do it. And then we were able to bring in Mark and Joe and now Miche. Now we have a full video team, and we're able to resource our clients with the power of video, which is such a powerful medium, such a powerful tool to use. Yes, thank you, Mark. Thank you, Mark, for coming in and getting that started. And now with social media, we're building a social media team. We're able to grow these teams, bringing out new realms of experience that allow us to create new solutions for clients. It also enables what's called the adjacent possible. This is a quick concept on where ideas come from. The adjacent possible, that in order for any new innovation to occur, there's a limited spectrum from where that idea can come. That is to say, if you want to invent an airplane, you have to have both Bernoulli's principle for aerodynamics and a powerful enough engine to use it. Without either one of those innovations, the innovation of airplane can't happen. And so on a team, as we're able to add in these new different abilities, we're able to use those as adjacent possibilities to create brand new solutions. That's going to increase our impact. That's going to enable us to reach more people and be more effective. It's also going to enable us to grow individually as a team. We've talked about the team so far, but I also want to talk about personal growth. And the first thing, perhaps, to communicate there is that growth is possible. Growth is possible. Congratulations, you are a human being. Hopefully that wasn't news to you. You are a human being, which is amazing. But it also comes with a long list of limitations. You are limited. You have limits. Today, you have a limit on how much energy you have. You have a limit on how much time you have today. You have a limit on your abilities, your skill sets. You have a limit on just your creativity. It does wear down throughout the day. You get decision fatigue. You get tired. There's a limit to how much you can work, no matter how hard you try today. But the good news is, those limits are not fixed limits. Your limits today don't define what your limits are tomorrow, or next month, or next year, or 5 years from now. In fact, there are very few things about you that are, in fact, fixed. In fact, they used to believe that things like intelligence was fixed. That at a certain point, that's how smart you were, and that's how smart you would ever be. And it turns out that is a fiction. It's false. Your intelligence varies. It varies from day to day, and it varies over time. Of course, your abilities, the things that you know how to do, can be expanded. Even your energy levels and your ability to to get more done, to think more clearly. All of this is malleable, and it happens in the form of habits. If you want to increase your habits, then the way to get there, to increase your capacity, the way to do that is to implement habits in your life. Now, there's a lot of great resources here, and I could talk a long time about habits, but I would not do so as well as many of the others who have already written and talked about habits. And so mostly here, I just want to point at some resources. One that I read early on was The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy, which if you want just to be encouraged, like, oh yeah, small changes in my life lead up to big changes in my life. Small daily habits lead up to massive changes overall. That's a good one. Atomic Habits is one of the best books I've read about how to actually go about making a habit. Little and often makes much. That's good, Uriah. A few years ago, we as a team through ArtSpeak University, we went through Brendon Burchard's High Performance Habits, and I think that's also a great next step. If you've already read Atomic Habits, that might be a great next one. But a few points about habits. One, you don't change everything at once. Start small. If you want to start implementing some habits in your life, start as small as you can go, in fact. Don't set up like, if you're not a runner, don't say, oh great, I'm going to go run 3 miles every day. In fact, according to James Clear in Atomic Habits, the most effective thing you might do is just simply put on your shoes and go outside. And that's how you start that habit. And as that becomes a habit, then you can add on to it to do further and further steps. So start small. Find a cornerstone habit. There are some things you do that if you will do that one thing, it just naturally leads to another good thing and another good thing. And so if you can get those cornerstone habits in place, they naturally cascade into more and more good habits and more good outcomes. But I want to cover a few categories that I want you to think about, especially in view of cornerstone habits. One, those energy levels that I just talked about, those are a thing that you can change. You can increase how much physical energy you have. You can increase how much mental energy you have. You can increase how much emotional energy you have. Physically, if you are paying attention to sleep, if you have some form of exercise going on in your life, some kind of movement, if you are paying attention to what you eat, these things will add up to more energy overall for you. And that will naturally lead to anything else good in your life. So that would be a place to start. Can I improve my sleep? Can I implement exercise? Can I examine my nutrition? Because the truth is, the fiction that I grew up with, and maybe you did too, is that the body and the mind are separate. Like there's the stereotypes of the skinny nerd and the dumb jock. It's totally false. Your mind is part of your body, and taking care of your body is also taking care of your mind. And that, in turn, will also increase your emotional energy. That's your emotional capacity, your ability to manage stress well, your ability to interact with others well, to respond better to situations. It's going to increase your mental energy, enable you to be able to make better decisions and decrease mental fatigue throughout the day. So those habits, again, check out those books. Start at the foundational levels. Let them cascade upward into more and more good habits for your life. Secondly, know yourself. Take time to know, one, how do you operate in the world? You might need to take a personality test. Or better yet, we've been talking a lot about Enneagram at ArtSpeak. If you're from a camp that thinks Enneagram is from the devil, choose something else. Myers-Briggs, I don't care. but do something that helps you understand how you operate. that helps you understand what your strengths are and what your opportunities for growth are. I'll say for me, I'm a fan of Enneagram. There's DISC, right? DISC is 2 axes. And so it's pretty simplistic. It's useful that way. Myers-Briggs is 4 axes. And so it's complex. It goes deep. It's useful also, but it takes a little more doing. And I find it harder to use. Enneagram is 3 axes. And so I think it's just this Goldilocks zone. And if you're looking for reading material, I'm going to recommend The Road Back to You by Ian Crom. I think that's better than taking some kind of test online. The test never seemed to do it for me, but when I read the book and I got to the number that I believe represents me, I was like, oh, yep, that hit me. But understand who you are and how you think. I know for me, for example, that I tend to overthink any decision. I want to prolong those decisions as long as possible because I am adverse to closing possibilities. And so I know, you're right. And so I know that one thing that I need to work on is identifying when maybe that decision merits that kind of process and when it's better to just make a decision and move forward. That's an area that I've been able to identify. That's one thing that I need to grow in. And so understand how your brain works. You check out personality. You may also need to, I have a counselor that I see regularly to help me work on me, help me identify blind spots, help me to get outside perspective. You may need a mentor. Hopefully you have one here in your teams and your one-on-ones here that can help coach you, that can help graciously push you to work on things that maybe you didn't initially realize that you needed to work on. Finally, learn new things. Keep growing. Keep learning. Read books. But let me set you free, fellow book readers. You do not need to finish the book. Do not need to finish the book. In fact, I'll say this. I think for most books, most of the value comes in the first 3 chapters. So, pick up a book and the conclusion. That's also good, Uriah. Read those first 3 chapters. If it is helping you in that moment, great. Keep reading. Keep pushing through. But if at that point you realize, okay, great, I think I got what I needed for now, put it down. There is no guilt and no shame in not finishing the book. So, I don't know. If they're not delivering value in the first 3 chapters, then I might put that one down. Audiobooks are also great. Audiobooks are real books too, guys. Mowing the lawn, man. There's something about listening to an audiobook while I mow the lawn. When I go back out into my yard later, I will remember those things from the book. So there's probably some science that we could throw into that. You also need feedback. You need people around you who can take a look at your work and give you honest, constructive feedback. You need people who can see what you don't see. And that's where that confident humility comes in. And you need community around you. You need to be able to see other people around you innovating in different ways, bringing different expertise, different experience to their work so that you can learn from them. And in that pool, that swirling pool of innovation, that's where growth and innovation come from. All right, we've got a few minutes left, and I want to talk about some things that we want to foster here at ArtSpeak, just philosophically, culturally, how we want to encourage and empower growth and innovation at ArtSpeak. And we've already talked about several of these, that we have feedback. I think that's one of the strengths of this community called ArtSpeak, that we have the feedback channels where we have a community where we know we can share our work in progress Know that we're not going to be judged or criticized as a person or as a professional in that, but that other eyes will come in and bring their experience and their perspective to the work that we're doing, and we can collaborate together. And there's so much learning opportunity that happens there. I know that as someone who started my graphic design journey totally on my own, I would just spin my wheels so often going, I don't know if this is any good or not. And I don't know how to tell. Until I was finally would finally feel the confidence to ship it to a client and hope that they liked it or not. Mentoring. We have one-on-ones here at ArtSpeak, and we want to empower in those contexts. In those one-on-ones, that's about growth. It's about speaking into opportunities to growth and encourage one another so that we can grow. And so lean into those one-on-one sessions. Ask the good questions of your one-on-one mentor. How can I grow? And if you have areas that you want to grow in that you've already identified, talk about that, because that leads us to the last one. We want to empower passion. I would much rather take someone that's like, hey, I don't know anything about this yet, but I love it. I'm learning it. I would rather take that person and figure out how can we get them moving in that direction? How can we empower them? How can we get them in that context so they can begin to learn about that? Because I believe that passion fosters learning. That passion fosters innovation. That passion will lead to growth. In fact, I think that's the critical ingredient in any growth. You will naturally grow in anything that you are passionate about. And we want to empower innovation. And that means structurally and culturally, we have to create a place where there is freedom to try new things, an encouragement to try new things. Because as we grow, as we scale, if you've been around here more than a few months, you know that we are going to reinvent everything we do. That we have to keep those systems ever improving, ever evolving, ever changing. We have to keep questioning everything we do, because as we scale and as the world changes, we have to change with it. And so there's nothing sacred. Well, we're all sacred, but there's nothing that can't change. There's freedom to question anything, and with that is a freedom to fail. And so, as a leader, I want to. We're winning when we have an environment where there is avid discussion. If there's no disagreement, it means either we're not invested or we don't care. But if we care about things and we're pushing forward and we're trying to find the best solutions, there will be disagreement. There will be different ideas on how to accomplish a thing. And as a leader, it's important to me that I empower those ideas, especially the ones that are not mine. There are times when this team has come up with ideas and I've thought in the back of my head, I don't know, I'm not sure. And I want to communicate those too. That's part of that confident humility. That's part of that discussion and that collaboration. But I want to empower those ideas. Most of the time, they work fantastic. And even when they don't, it's still a win. It's still a win to empower those ideas. And for this team to know that we could try a new idea and it could fail, and that's okay. Because that's when ideas can happen. That's when we take the fear out of the equation.